So today's episode is entitled Independent and Coachable. So it kind of describes two very important characteristics for a developing baseball player at all levels, and that's the individuality of what you got, what you're bringing to the table, your makeup, your characteristics, physically, mentally, and then also are you coachable? And that's a term you'll hear a lot. And why that's important is because you have to have a sense of humility and ability to receive direction and teaching. You have to be able to receive that because you're going to run into a lot of good coaches, teachers in the game that will help you, and you have to be able to accept that, put your own spin on it, and make it your own if you believe that's going to help you, and make that a part of your individual makeup as a baseball player. Because ultimately, you'll always have control of your individual makeup as a player, whether it's your physical size, your mental capacity, how you deal with things, how you see the game, your vision of the game. That's yours. You'll own it. And no one will have a perspective of it better than you will because it's you out there. And I'll go on in a little bit, but I always have a very important message for my players, especially middle-aged amateurs to older amateurs to professionals, is that my goal in teaching and training is for you to be your own best coach. Because at the end of the day, you're the person competing on the stage, in the batter's box, on the field, and we don't get any outside help during direct competition. It's just us out there. So we have to be able to make adjustments on the fly, be quick with our thoughts, quicker with our reactions, trust our reactions. But most importantly, trust our training, our philosophies, our understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. Our approach, as I explain it to ball players, is our approach. And our approach is that imaginary yet well thought out game plan to how we're going to attack a particular situation and the steps we're going to have to follow to increase our chances for success. So I like to mesh the individuality and the coachability of a player. And it should be very delicate, and it should be understood if you are a coach. And I have a pretty good track record in the baseball world as a player and trainer, teacher, mentor. So that's kind of how I describe myself, and nowhere in that did I say the word coach or manager. And I'm pretty adamant about discerning the two or three or whatever the terms. As a coach or a manager of a team, you have many, many, many more responsibilities than simply getting an individual better at the game of baseball. And what I love to do is get individuals better at the game of baseball. So a coach or a manager of a team, their end game or goal is to win games and in the process, teach good lessons. And as a side effect, and if they're really good at what they do, individuals can grasp concepts that will apply to them, and individuals will get better. But in most cases, you don't see that happen. In most cases, you see a very bland, cookie cutter approach across the board that's going to try to apply to 15, 20, 25 individuals on a team. And that's simply not the case. What works for one person might not work for the other. Most likely won't work for all. That's how firmly I believe baseball, the training, the execution, is such on an individual basis that it needs to be taught, trained that way. And that's where I believe my sweet spot is. That's what I have passion about, is training the individual, and then how they transfer that on the field, and then how that transfers into being a member of a winning baseball team ultimately takes care of itself. You know, each player brings to the table a whole different variable from physical to mental. Everybody's a different size, height, weight. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. So, as a trainer, someone like myself, you have to work with those strengths and weaknesses. And as a player, you have to be willing to sell out and throw everything on the table and have somebody work with you on your, harness your strengths, but develop your weaknesses constantly. And that's important. And how those end up in the execution of the action on the field, whether it be an at-bat, fielding, throwing, running, is going to take a life of its own based on your individuality. And again, how you may do something is not going to be how someone else does it, and how that equals success on both ends. But, it's two different roads to get to there. And I think that's very important to convey. And I think young baseball players, or even better, like in my case, as a professional, but uneducated on this topic, would be you have to grasp this concept that there's an extreme level of individuality in everything you do in the technical skill side of the game, but you also have to be vulnerable and opened and have humility and be willing to learn and be coachable. Now, that's a dangerous combination. It's a fine line, because you never know who you're going to be surrounded with on the coaching side of things. And because if you open yourself up to shitty coaching and you just simply shake your head, yes, sir, and you believe everything out of somebody's mouth, it's probably more likely to backfire and be detrimental to you than help you. So the best case scenario is to surround yourself with people that are going to help mold who you are and bring to light your strengths as a player and enhance them, and identify your weaknesses and forever be working on them to bring them up to level. but never imposing some certain way, shape, or form on you as an individual baseball player. And I guess that's my most important message in this episode, is that a good trainer, teacher should never impose their way or method on the masses and expect it to work out for everybody. That they should be more focused and concentrated on dealing with you as an individual commodity or individual player. And I think that's important, and I think it's not readily available to most young players. You know, the prototypical, you know, approach to this is sign up for Little League and club ball, and you get volunteer coaches, and, you know, for whatever reason, they're teaching the same batting stance and the same swing and the same throwing motion and the same fielding, and it becomes this manufactured cookie cutter way to do things, when in reality you're probably dealing with a few kids on that team that have some extraordinary ability, but it's hard for them to conform into that into that box. You know, we don't want to put talent into a box. We want to let it be individual. We want to let it breathe. We want to let it progress, but we want to also surround it with the best resources to do so. So when I speak of that, I mean more so on a physical side of things. Most young baseball players have some physical strengths on their side, and we want to be able to enhance those, work with those, apply the strengths to the total problem of the execution and get consistent positive results. Not put those strengths into a box, shrink them down, make them universal to how everybody's supposed to do it, and then expect some extraordinary results, because it won't happen. You know, it's so obvious that all you got to do is watch a Major League Baseball game. Everybody's got a different batting stance. Most guys look, you know, different in their stance, in their setup, even their swing, finish, follow through. And so much as to, it's pretty easy to copy different swings and stances, and we all kind of know who they are just because we're mocking them, because each one is so individual. And that's the beauty of the game, and that's what should be enhanced, and there should be a much more proactive approach to that at the younger levels, but there's simply not. Now, there's obviously a basic level of understanding that has to be taught before we go into just letting young players do whatever they want on the field. I mean, there's some basics when it comes to hitting, throwing, fielding, whatever. But we really have to embrace those differences, those unique traits or qualities in a player. And I think that's a big problem nowadays, is everybody wants to conform to how they think they should coach or teach or train. And it's this way that works, and you should subscribe to this, and you should buy into this, and this works, that doesn't. And it's unfair, because what might work for one player is not going to work for the other. And that's where you really get into this, you know, you need a teacher trainer to really get their hands dirty and involved with each individual case, because that's what it is. It's an individual case. And you have to take all the ingredients that individual case brings to the table. Their height, their weight, their size, their reaction, their balance, their body control, their strength, thought process, makeup. And when you take all that and you work on it, you're going to find a different way to teach that individual as opposed to somebody else. And I've been doing individual lessons for a long, long time. And I can honestly say that, no lesson's the same. And that's not me saying I'm not teaching a lot of the same stuff, but as how it applies to the individual is the first thing that comes to mind when I'm working with somebody in the cage, is the individual, their strengths, their positives, and their negatives, and how my lesson plan is going to relate to them, and how I'm going to work to help that specific person get better. And it's really never the same in each case. So find somebody that's going to help you with that angle. Basically what it is bringing out the best in you. Because there's something in you, especially when you're more developed and older and seasoned, there's something there. You've gotten so far on your individual talent, and now it needs to be harnessed, refined. You have to have somebody teach you and train you in the art of becoming your own best coach. Self-help is the best help there is. Once we have to rely and look over our shoulder and look for advice and rely on somebody else all the time, that's detrimental to your performance and your conduct when it matters most. But when you can be trained by masters that can bring out your best individuality into the arena, and you can understand the adjustments you have to make, and when things go bad, you know first, and when things are good, you understand how to handle them and maintain them. That's what's important. So the best players, the best performers are the ones that have achieved that. They've become their own best coach, trainer. They're always open to coaching and training and learning. But when it comes down to it, they know themselves best. Because hitting and a lot of the actions on the field as a baseball player is feel, and no one can feel the movements better than you. So that's very important to understand. Now, for a young player, you're always building up to that, because somebody 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever, on up to 18, 19, 20, whatever, at whatever level you're on, you're always in search of that. That's your end game, is to become your own best coach. And I always have a small dependency and reliance on masters. And always be seeking forms of training, information, knowledge. But at the end of the day, you trust the process, and you've become your own best coach. And you can tweak it, and that's what baseball is. It's a game of tweaks and adjustments. And you'll always need somebody to help you with that. But ultimately, you're in control. And, when things aren't working, And this is the really hard part of the developmental process, is when things aren't working and you're not getting results in production, that there comes a time that you need to change. You need to do something different. And that's when it becomes really difficult, because you got to throw your trust and belief behind maybe somebody else that's going to help you, take yourself to the next level. And that's hard to swallow as a player. So you're always adapting. And I think a lot of baseball players, especially hitters, don't like the word change, but adjustments are real. And how you obtain those and study those and work those out through practice sessions and training and understanding, and again, ultimately becoming your own best coach through experimentation and adjustments, I think is very important as well. So I think we've hit on, the importance of being an individual on the baseball field, and that independence, but also being coachable and trusting that, and having people in your corner that will allow that to evolve, I think is very important. And I think, that word evolve is constant. You're always evolving. Don't get caught up in a situation where you're being taught the same thing as the other 15 kids on the team, and you're all expected to come to the same result. It won't happen. You need somebody to work with you and enhance and bring out the best that you have to offer, and then enhance that with understanding, learning, experimentation, training, to bring you to the next level always. So hopefully you have a better understanding now on what I mean by the independence or the individuality of a player, yet maintaining and being a coachable player, I think is very important. So that's all I got.